Mm-hmm. Ooh. It's working. Awesome. Welcome. Oh, you gotta turn your phone off. Good. Welcome. My name is Kim. I'm with Reupholster. I teach upholstery and furniture restoration here out of my design studio in Ann Arbor, Michigan. We've been working on this project. This is the second week now. Today, it's Tutorial Tuesday. I'm going to show you how to reupholster a spoonback chair. Only today, our focus is going to be on staple removal, stripping off the old materials, and sort of like checking out what's going on the inside so we can prepare ourselves for the next steps. So we're going to go over tools that you need. We're going to go over where to start, when to stop, and what the plan is moving forward. We're also going to measure for material so we know what to have ready for us when we come back next week to start putting everything back on. So if you have questions while we go ahead and put them on the comments. I'm happy to answer them. I'm not going to be looking at the camera the whole entire time. I have a different view here on Instagram. So if you want close-up views of my hands and everything we're doing, you're also going to have to log into another channel. So currently I'm going live from Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitch, and YouTube. So you can catch me on those platforms. As soon as I figure out how, I'm just going to embed this in my website so you don't have to have a social media channel to watch it either. So when you have questions, go ahead and put them in the comments. If you're here and you're enjoying what it is that you see, all I ask is that you engage by either putting comments, sharing it, or tapping the like button. Gifts are nice, but I only see fractions of pennies of those gifts. So please don't waste your money giving it to the oligarchs. Go ahead and just hit the tap button or just engage. That's all I really need. When you guys engage with me here, it pushes my content out across all the platforms, and it helps to show that this is relevant content that you like to watch, and it'll start showing you that more. But it also starts showing people who are looking for stuff like this, and it helps them find me. So I teach upholstery and furniture restoration, and people who have questions with that often will be searching on the internet, and they're looking for someone who can help them with those answers. And I offer live classes, not pre-recorded tutorials. So when you take a class from me, either here in the studio or over Zoom from your own home, you're engaging with me directly live, and I'm able to help answer your questions while you work on your project. That's the whole deal. It's like live hands-on support if you need it, while you work, when you need it the most. So today we're going to be working on this spoonback chair. And I've pulled out all the tools that I'm going to need to use on it. The goal is to get it stripped down. We're only going to be here for an hour, though. I'm not going to just belabor the point of pulling out staples or decorative nail heads or whatever is we're going to find under here. Once we get the gist of what we're doing, we're going to go ahead and end the live. So this, I'm estimating, is going to be about an hour long, and then they will get posted later so that you can see it. And later on down the road, it'll be edited into long form content and some short form content so that you guys can watch that online too. So please, if you have questions, make sure you put them in the comments. Let me see. Let's start with the tools that we're going to need. So when you're working on a project, you're going to want to remove everything, maybe not everything, maybe just the things you want to fix. And in order to do that properly, you're going to need proper tools. Now, if you don't have some of these specialized tools at home, one of the things that I would suggest that you have handy and available is a flathead screwdriver and a pair of pliers, either a pair of lineman's pliers or needle nose pliers. We'll go over that in a minute. But those are like two necessary things you're going to need to get out like staples or nail heads. But the specialized tools help take the impact off your body, make the job easier, and save you time and money in the long run. So if you have to invest in a $30 to $50 tool, the very first tool that I would suggest you invest in would be a staple remover. So I'm not going to show you how to use a flathead screwdriver because I don't think it's safe to do that because you risk like stabbing yourself. But I will go over how to use these specialized tools today. And for now, I'm just going to kind of point these tools out, and then as we use them, I'll show you how they're used. So my favorite staple remover is this CS Osborne 120. This is a sharp, it's either 120 or 124. It could be 124. There's both of them are equally as good, but they have really sharp points on them, and they are shaped so that they leverage against the frame, and they take the impact off of your body. So this is a good tool to have because it's super sharp and it can get up under deeply embedded staples. I will, however, need another one of these. It looks like this one fell straight down like that, so the tips are curved. The other staple remover I like to have on hand for a project like this, is a double rock staple remover. This is the first staple remover I found when I was Googling on the internet how do you take these staples out easier and faster. And this was the one that came up because it was engineered to take the impact off of your hands. I'm gonna get a close up here real quick of what that looks like. So it has these two little prongs on the side, and each prong has a little notch on the side of that, and it allows you to get that little prong up under the staple, and the notch will help you pull it out just by turning it around. So I'll show you how to use this when we get into it, but I have noticed that the only place I've ever been able to find this to purchase it is on Amazon, and I hope to get a hold of the company to see if they'll consider carrying it in other places because I'm trying to swear that off in the new year. So the C.S. Osborne staple remover, C.S. Osborne is a company that specializes in upholstery tools, so anything you buy from them is going to be good. These you can find on my website, or the double rock staple remover. Now I like the double rock because it is less damaging to projects that have this like show wood. So when you're removing material away from show wood, sometimes a sharp tool can like shred the wood or like make big dents or slip and scratch your piece. These are a little bit more controlled, and they're cheaper than the other kind, but they also go dull the fastest. So I like to only use these for projects that have show wood. That's why I have it out today. If the staple remover doesn't pull the staple out all by itself, then you're going to need a pair of pliers. This is a pair of lineman's pliers. This is a pair, is that right? Vice grips? Okay, I don't know what these pliers are called, but they can change how big they get. And then this can grab onto the staple and you can rock against this to pull the staple out. I don't prefer these. My husband prefers these. A lot of students prefer these because of the way that they help you manage. I prefer to grab it with needle nose pliers and twist it and pull it out. So that's why I have these on hand. I have carpal tunnel. It's difficult for me to hold like smaller tools, so a big pair of needle nose pliers works better for me. This isn't as easy for me to navigate with my hands, and that's probably the carpal tunnel. But I've seen a lot of people use these and they tend to work out good. Some other tools that we're going to need are cutting utensils. I have a nice pair of sharp scissors that are meant for fabric, and I have a razor blade with some spare razors, so that I'm going to try and attempt to show you guys some tricks on how to get this material off faster. Sometimes the old material, it doesn't work out so much, so we're going to see if we can get through some hacks today and see if we can make it work. If not, you guys are going to learn the hard way how difficult it is to take staples and nails out of things. So I'm not even 100% sure what is being used to attach this. So we're sort of going to dissect this today. The very first thing that I ask people to do when they come to class or when I'm like consulting them on doing a project is take as many pictures and video as possible, not just at the beginning and not just for the before and after, but throughout the process. I taught myself how to do this through reverse engineering by taking it apart one layer at a time, taking pictures and video and putting it back together in the opposite way that I took it apart. I didn't understand what was going on for a long time until everything started to come together for me, and watching videos and everything on the internet helped too, but I didn't have anyone to ask direct questions to, and that's what changes here. This is always live hands-on support, so if you have questions as we go, or if you're in class from Zoom or joining me here in person, you have questions, I'm able to help you sort of show you physically exactly what you need to do to solve that problem. So we're going to strip this apart today. I'm going to get all of these tools off of here, and I just want to sort of kind of go over the anatomy of this chair before we get too deep into it. It's got the fabric on the outside. It's all ripped up, and you can kind of start to see what's going on the inside. I can feel that it has horsehair in it, and you're not always going to be aware of that. I feel some edge roll, some metal edge roll. probably some coil springs. In order to take this apart, I have to start removing the layers in the opposite direction it was put together. In this chair's case, it's bottom up, but I don't need to remove the bottom to get the front of it off just yet, because I can access everything on the inside of the chair from the side panels. So I might choose to start it sitting up like this, laying it back, or flipping it over and starting it from the bottom. Today we're going to get started on removing the staples up here so that I can show you some techniques on how to remove staples near show wood. And then hopefully we're going to get to the point where you can see what's going on the inside. The client wants to preserve as much of the natural materials as possible. We don't know if that's going to be possible. I don't know what it looks like going in. We won't know that until everything starts to get stripped down, but then we'll be able to decide what we can save and what we can't save. I am not a traditional upholsterer. I'm not even classically trained. I taught myself how to do this. So I have used horsehair before on a project before. It was challenging for me, but this is already got a built-in shape with a wire edge roll. So I'm pretty confident we can just add on to the padding that's here and probably retie some springs as we go, but we're going to take a look at everything and see what we need to do. So I'm going to start off by flipping the chair backwards so that we have some leverage over the top of the chair by being on top of it, and we're going to start removing all of the gimp that's around here, and you'll see the gimp right around all the show edge of the wood, and the purpose of that is to cover up all of the staples and everything that's up underneath it, to hide the fact that anyone did any work on it at all. So I'm just going to lay this back. Excellent. So now I have a little bit better leverage on top of it, and I want to make sure I have sawhorses under here. I want to make sure that it's not rocking back and forth because I'm going to put a lot of pressure underneath. I might even also get a piece of foam up underneath the wood parts so that the wood doesn't get scratched up. If you have sawhorses that are padded, you won't need this part, but mine are not padded. So I'm going to put some foam up underneath that, under all of the wood parts that are touching the hardwood underneath it. So let me get some of these tools out of the way. Also important to note, when you're picking the project up and moving it around on your sawhorses, try not to drag it or scooch it anywhere. You just want to pick it up and set it down so that nothing gets scratched, especially if your client didn't pay to have that frame refinished. Okay, so now let's take a look at what we're working with. Typically, when we start to remove this material, we're looking for the end of the gimp that's like not tied down. Sometimes it meets somewhere and you have to figure out where it starts and where it stops. But I think I can grab mine here with this pair of pliers. Okay. So one of the things that I thought was the craziest when I started learning how to do this is that they use hot glue to put trim on, and I was like, that can't possibly be true, but it is true. It's an industry standard to use hot glue, but you're using high temperature hot glue with a high temperature hot glue gun, which is a little bit different than craft glue. So I have a hold of this gimp now, and it looks like it's going to let me pull it off, and underneath is revealing these decorative, or not decorative nail heads, but these upholstery tacks. I wonder if you can zoom. You can keep going. Okay, that's now back up a little bit. A little bit more. Okay, right there is good. All right, so now you can see these tacks here. And underneath those tacks is a bit of cardboard. That is awesome because that means I'm going to be able to get my tool up under the cardboard, which will help me get up underneath these nails. But these nails are also a little bit rusty, so they have the potential that the head will pop right off of them. One thing I'm going to do before I start digging in at the wood is try a hack that I learned when I first started doing this to get all of that stuff up at once. I have to release this like row of nails away from the fabric. So I'm going to cut away the fabric right near the nails so that I can just address that row of nails and take everything off. Plus it makes you feel like you're going a lot faster than you actually are. Now, if you're trying to save the material, this is not the move. But I am not trying to save this fabric, and the horsehair underneath isn't really going to be affected by this. It's going to cut a few hairs, but they can all still get stuffed back inside. And when I wouldn't want to use this material as a pattern reference and putting it back on, because all of the excess material was cut off after it was upholstered to the frame, and there's additional material that you need to be able to pull this with your hands. So you don't want to go and use this as a reference for any material you put back on, because it's not going to fit when you go to put it back on over a reupholstered chair. So now I have all of these separated. Now I can start going at it with some tools. So first I need to sort of lift an end of this so that I can get a hold of that row to see if I can get that all up at one time. So I'm just kind of bringing my tools over so I can decide which one I need when. Thanks. Here and here. These are basically all the tools that I have at my station all the time. And you can get this tool and I think pliers off of my website. So if you don't have these already, these are the ones I suggest you have. And you're always going to need a staple remover even after this process. So keep them on hand at all times. So I don't know if you can see. Yeah, I would stay there. So these are upholstery tacks. They're metal. They tend to not be very long. They're real short, and they can be really easy to remove. But sometimes, especially if they're old and rusted, they're like deeply embedded and they might break off. Or sometimes they're bigger than you think. It's always a crapshoot. Can you get me that arrow? I do have a special staple remover that I like to try out with all nails because it's terrible with staples, but it works really good with nails. I just sent Crosby to go get that. So once I have enough freed at the end here, I'm going to try and get all of this to come off at the same time. Thank you. Okay, I just got to get a couple more. I can tell that it's like fragile. The fabric is going to rip from where I cut it there. So the tool that I'm using, we didn't go over at the beginning of the video. I don't carry this on my website, but you can get it at a local hardware store. The brand is Arrow, A-R-R-O-W. And it looks like a springboard. Terrible for removing staples because it has like these blunt ends on it. So it's not super sharp. It can't get under deeply embedded staples very good, but perfect for nails and decorative nail heads. But it will fling them across the room. Okay, so this is working much better. Well, the good news is with this tool, getting the nails out isn't as difficult, but my hope is that I can get them all out kind of at the same time. So I'm just gonna come in here. That's the last bit of fabric. Hold it on there. And then I'm going to grab it with my needle nose pliers and I'm going to curl it like a curling iron. And a lot of times this will pull the nail right out with it. And it did carry a bunch. And now I don't want to damage this material. I'm going to potentially save it. But it did remove nails with it. So that's going to make my job a lot easier as I come through here. And my students always ask me, do you have to remove every single nail in order to like do it? And the short answer is yes, because there's a finite amount of sharp pointy objects you can cram into that wood before it starts to break and deteriorate. But if this is your very first project and you don't want to get discouraged by the staple removal process, then if it's deeply embedded and it's not holding anything down and there's not a cluster of them anywhere, safe bet is you can probably leave it, especially if it looks like it's going to be more damaging to the frame to try and dig it out than it is to just leave it. But understand that staples can't go through metal, and if you have a giant row of nails here, that trying to put staples through that is going to be further traumatizing to the wood. So if the reason for reupholstering is preservation, then you're going to want to make sure that you're very careful with that. Now, something I did that I didn't even think to bring up was I just scratched this frame a little bit. This is easily repaired, but this happens when you leverage your tool off the frame, and I know better than to do that. So this is a repair we're going to have to make. Well, you want to keep that in mind for when you're coming back through to make sure that you're not damaging the frame in the removal process. And that happened when I was turning this and I was just setting it down on the frame like that. All right. So a lot of this material now is just kind of falling apart. So that's not going to be a viable option to try and get that off. So instead of wasting my time trying to do it, I'm just going to keep prying these up from the frame. Now the order of operations here is GIMP. We're going to remove that, and then we're going to remove these nails that we're holding down the cardboard tack strip, which helps create a sharp flat edge here, and the upholstery nails that go inside that. Underneath that is the top fabric, and underneath that is a layer of batting, and underneath that is a layer of muslin that's containing all of the horsehair. And underneath that, we have horsehair. And underneath that, there's a layer of burlap, which serves as our barrier fabric. Underneath that, we have some jute webbing straps. So those, that's how many layers are on this chair. And every layer may or may not have another row of nails like this. Luckily, I find these nails to be a lot easier to remove than staples. They tend to come out easier. But as you're going to see, is they leave really big gouges in the wood, which can be damaging. It can also make it difficult for staples to stay in, particularly if it's been reupholstered a ton of times, because there's just holes everywhere, and staples can't bite into holes. And of course you could fill the holes, you could fill them with wood filler, you could fill them with Bondo, you could fill them with epoxy, but all of those things shrink and crumble as they age, which they start to do the second that they're created, and they just crack away in there. So it's not like a good permanent solution. Sometimes you can attach more wood to it to sort of make it stronger, or to give another surface to put more staples in. I can't see any chats from here. I don't know if I can see that from anything. Yes. Yeah, I don't know how to turn that on. Oh well. If you see anything in the chat, just show me and I can read it out. All right, there's a lot going on here. I was really hoping I would be able to pry that out. They're very rusty. Let's see. Try this for the fun of it. No, it doesn't work in my hand. See, I have carpal tunnel, so that's just not a good tool for my hand. I keep wanting it to work. All right, we got a little somewhere. The thicker the material that it is, the stronger it is, the more likely that is going to be a trick that works. I'm going to come around to this side of the chair now, just so I can get better leverage. You always want to position yourself in a way that feels comfortable, not that you're like reaching too far. And like sometimes pulling staples from the side of the chair feels a lot like you're not getting enough like leverage or pressure on it, and you're putting yourself in more danger because your tool can slip. So you want to keep that tool pointed away from you, protect your eyes. I have these fun new glasses that I am not accustomed to and trying to learn how to see. I've never gotten a staple or a nail in my eye, but I have stapled through my own chest before, so there's a lot to say about safety. Okay, this is starting to come clean a little bit. So this is on the front layer, but something very similar is going to be found on the back too. And you've got to remove all of that. And I have to be able to remove all of this in order to see what's going on the inside. The horsehair to me doesn't feel like it's in very good shape. We'll know more when we take it apart. But it also has some organic material in it, probably peat moss. So it's crumbling and turning dusty, which means it's going to start coming through fabric as it disintegrates more. So potentially we won't be able to use that, or maybe we can condense it to one area like the seat, so the whole thing doesn't fail at once. She wants to, it's a family heirloom, and she wants to keep as much of the original intact as we can. But it is in rough shape and it definitely needs to be reupholstered. All right, let me see if I can get a grip on this again. Here we go. This only works if you cut that row away from the fabric. If it's still attached to the fabric, you're going to have a hard time getting it to come up like this, because it's going to be trying to take all of that with it, and it's going to just create resistance. I like to work and just let everything fall on the floor, but do make sure you're wearing hard-soled shoes when you do that, because you will get nails in your shoes. You're 100% going to step on them. If you're learning something from this by watching today, all I ask is that you engage either in the comment section or tap in the like button to let me know that you like this, because it helps other people like you find me for what it is that I do. Whew, that looks rough. This is not the first time that this has been upholstered. This has a lot of holes, and it's cracking around some of those holes. So we're going to have to investigate what kind of shape this is in when we get it apart, and what we can do to keep it intact as we add more holes to it. That'll be a good learning experience for you guys. If you have a view you would like to see too, let me know in the comments. We can try to accommodate. We have some moving cameras. Can you go check Instagram and see if there's any comments there? Okay. Good. Well, this is a different kind of nail. This is a little round-headed nail. So I hope we don't find too many of those in here, because that was not fun to remove. I'm going through and making sure that I catch up to nail removal. I really want to see, we're about halfway through. We're going to move on from doing this to doing the seat here in a second, so that we can get up under there and see what's going on, because I'm not going to be revisiting stripping this again when we come back next week. Next week we're probably going to be tying springs. So I want to make sure we cover everything we can cover on the staple removal process, and then doing something new next week. If you enjoy doing this, but you really would like to have me answer your questions while you work from home, I have a Zoom subscription model that you can join. Currently it's $5 a month, but we've been making a lot of changes since our 1-year anniversary. So that will be changing soon, but the offering will be different. But you're welcome to join for this trial for $5 a month right now, and it includes 12 hours a month of hands-on support for your projects over Zoom. And that's open to anybody, but you can also join any of my Bring Your Own Project classes that are 4 hours long over Zoom from your home, and then you can ask me questions live there too. That's limited to 10 projects. So there are a lot of opportunities to learn from me. I teach 7 days a week. We are here all the time, working our butts off. Okay, so we did get, that got a lot out, actually. This is all nails. And that's likely because there's so many dang holes in it. It's just like falling out. So now let's focus on the seat itself. I'm going to just set this back up. I'm going to remove the foam now so that this doesn't tip over. And we're going to work on doing the same thing that we did up here, which is like remove the gimp and cut in around this. That's going to allow me to sort of take this whole entire top off. So I'm going to find where the gimp starts. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Usually in an inconspicuous place in the back. Get this off. Oh, wonderful. Pulling the nails out with it. Yay. Now I can see everything going on under there. I want to leave enough material attached to this that it'll come out. It's like barely attached to it at all anyways. So I'm just going to come through and like cut around the edge. These tend to go dull fast, so when it starts to fray your fabric, that's a good indicator that it's time to change your blade. And you can take this all the way around the chair at this point, because you're going to do this method all the way around everything that's nailed down. Oh, I hate breaking nails. Don't grow your nails out and do upholstery. Gross. They break very easy. Okay, so now, well, I didn't cut through here all the way. Now we can start to see what's going on under here. I'm going to cut it away at the seat too so that we can take the whole top off. But everything that's attached to the seat is tucked down inside the frame and attached to the top of the frame in the back and through the sides. That's covered up by all the material that's on the back here. So I am eventually going to have to go in there and remove it from the outside, but for the purposes of getting into the deck, I'm just cutting around the top so we can remove this faster. Now, if you're planning on preserving these materials, now's a good time to have some sort of container to put them in so that they don't get messed up and buried in the nails around your studio, this is what we're working with. A whole layer of horsehair that is actually stitched down with some twine. So we're just gonna cut through that twine. If you're replacing all of the materials, you're gonna wanna cut through the twine. It's got this beautiful upholstered seat. I'm not going to cut out that yet. I'm going to investigate what this looks like from underneath before I take apart the top, because this looks gorgeous, beautifully like traditional upholstered. I can mimic this, but I've never done this before, and this looks so beautiful, and she's so much more concerned with it being as preserved as possible that we're just going to build on top of it if the springs are still in good shape, which we'll investigate from underneath now. So this is like that. Where do I start? Where do I stop? First, you have to recognize your priorities, and the priorities of this chair is to preserve as much as possible. So we're trying to keep this horsehair and everything intact, but we are going to be cleaning it. We're going to be adding material to it, and we're going to be beefing it up just a little bit more. I'm hoping I don't have to retie the springs. Potentially, those could be retied from underneath as well. We're just not going to know until we get into it. If you're looking to do as little work as possible, take your time removing these layers. But for the most part, you're always going to have to, in order to like replace anything on the front, you're going to end up removing the stuff on the back. So I'm going to hold on to that. We do not know the age of this chair. I could take pictures, and I'm not a furniture expert, which sounds silly to say, working in the furniture industry as long as I have. But you can take pictures, you can Google search it. The family probably has more knowledge of that, and I'll find out more information as when we deliver the project. We'll get the story so I can share that with you guys. But I do know this is a family heirloom. So this has been in the family for a while. This hair's looking rough and thin in some spots. And then underneath here, I don't know what happens if you zoom, but the wood is just shredded. That's sad to see. Huh? Oh. It's tracking my hair though. So can you zoom? Silly. Yeah, you can see a little bit. So right here, can you stop the camera now? Can you make it stop? You can hit the button where it says, there's like an X over a person. Oh, that's fine. We'll just do this. I got it. Don't touch. All right, I'm just going to point it. Yeah. Yeah, now you can see it. Dust. And usually that's foam dust, but there's no foam in this chair, and I can definitely tell it's the wood. So we've got to get in there and see what's going on. I don't see any bugs. It just looks like it's falling apart. Definitely worth noting, you should look for bugs before you bring this shit into your house. Okay, so, oof, it looks real rough. We might have to, I don't know. Well, we're going to get this layer off, and then I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to take a look at the bottom. Hey, Brooke. We're just live right now on everything. But you can go around that way. Good. There you go. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over now. I'm going to move this hair to the side. I'm going to flip it back, and then I'm going to flip it over so it's on its belly. Notice I picked it up before I tipped it so that I wasn't scratching the legs. And now I can flip it over. Nice. Mirror. Picking it up so it doesn't scratch. Want to adjust everything to make sure it's not going to wobble off. I'm going to move this. We can do a lot of in and outs on this, probably zoom out on that one. Okay. All right. So next I'm going to take the dust cover off of this so we can see the jute webbing. Then I'm hoping I can see through that jute webbing to see what's going on with the springs. What I'm looking for is to see if the spring string is broken. If the spring string is not broken, we're going to let it go, and we're going to deduct that from the cost of the client's estimate, because if we don't have to retie the springs, we don't need to charge them for it. And then see where we go from there. She would prefer that we hold on to it as long as possible. I'm sure she doesn't mind like reupholstering the outside when this fails, but I think we're going to be able to make it work. It feels tight. Nothing is, I mean, it's rounding down, which is a sign of sagging. The jute webbing is usually the first to stretch out, but everything is still tight. The springs aren't loose, and it doesn't feel like anything is toppled over. So time will tell. So that means we have to carefully remove the dust cover so that I can't go take a blade through here, because it's just gonna, did I just do it again? Or is this the one from before? Oh, here, there's another one. Like, it's doing this. Bloop. When you drop these on the floor like this, it bends the prongs, and then they don't work so good. So I don't want to cut any of this so that I can preserve it and not have to do it. So we're going to get that's not going to work. The arrow tool for the win. The sharp tool is too sharp for this job. But I can get up under this fabric, and I'm not interested in preserving the fabric actually, so I'm just going to tear it. Looking good. I can't see a ton. I am going to take some close-up video with my phone though, so that I can see inside. I'm going to turn my flashlight on. Okay. I'm looking for broken strings. Everything looks tied and tight. Everything looks to be in perfect order. Just a little loosier-goosier on the bottom. So we could put another layer of jute webbing on here. This is probably the last time this chair can be upholstered, if what I'm thinking is happening to the front of it is correct. So we don't want to traumatize it any further. This looks good. It's in good shape. I can put new jute webbing on the bottom to hold that tight for a little bit longer. We still have to investigate what's going on the front end, because a lot of that wood is just like filed away. But it looks like we'll be able to keep the infrastructure of the seat. We have to vacuum it out. We have to get all the dust and dirt out of there if we can, so that way it is clean when we go to put everything back on. This stuff leaves marks on fabric. If you're using a light colored fabric, that's what's going to happen to it. So make sure you're cleaning everything off before you start to put new materials on. So we're going to leave the bottom. We don't have any more staple removal to do there. So we stop at spring seat. The only thing left now All right, I'm going to swap this over. Okay. So now we can go through and try and remove all of this so that I can see what's going on with the frame down here. I'm just going to try and pull it. This doesn't have the cardboard over top like the first layer did, but it does have the muslin nailed on, the batting nailed on, the fabric nailed on, and some of the horsehair too, in spots. All right, that's not gonna work. Let's try the twist. Here we go. The glue, hot glue, if they use it, actually helps to kind of hold everything together, especially if it's fragile fabric. What do you know? It's coming off the front end, falling apart real easy. All right. So all those nails came out. That's great. There's a lot of cleaning that needs to be done, and we probably will do some sort of filler where it's all dusty and falling apart, but we do need to clean it so that we can investigate it more. We're probably going to put like another layer of material on top of this because it is fallen away from the edge here. But this is so beautifully done. I can't wait till we get it cleaned up and get some pictures of it because it's like, this is artistry and you just don't want to take that apart if it's in good shape. I certainly wouldn't be able to do it that well because I'm more of a modern upholsterer. Although I did try my hand at horsehair on the Baker furniture sofa that I did. The horsehair was so clean on the inside. The whole project was just gorgeous. Okay. Having a little brush handy or vacuum. Oh, air hose. Hold on, let me do that. Sorry, guys. What do we got plugged into the air compressor over here? Thanks, man. All right, so I have an air tool. All that is just blows air. Connected to my air hose, I can just pull the trigger and just, it's just like really extreme air that's gonna blow all the dust off of this. Let me get out of the way. This is also probably going to be my tool of choice to get all the dust out of it. I'm just showing off, just showing it what it does. I'm not going to do that now though. Sorry guys. I didn't know it was going to be that bad. Okay. So, let me get a zoom. Oh yeah. That's what we're working with. So it's pretty chewed up, but it's not on its very last leg. We're still going to be able to work with some material down here on the edge, but we do have to go ahead and get every single nail out of there because if we don't, it's just going to keep splitting that wood and it's just going to keep getting worse. So next steps for this, and we're like rounding the tail end here, and I'm going to just go back and check, make sure we've answered all the comments if we have any. After we continue to get the old fabric and the horsehair and the barrier, everything that is on the back will get stripped off. So we talked about like, where do you start? When do you stop? This project has some pretty finite boundaries. We're going to remove everything from the top. We're going to clean the horsehair material so it can be reused. We're going to add more cotton batting to the top of that and put new fabric on. It also is going to need new jute webbing and new burlap for barrier fabric, but we're going to keep the infrastructure of the seat because the seat is still in great shape. We're going to clean everything out from the inside. We're going to blow the dust out. We're going to vacuum it out. We're going to pick all of these hairs out of it, clean them up with the rest of them, reapply that horsehair, put more cotton batting on it. On top of that, put the fabric on, and do this in the most traditional way possible, preserving the majority of the chair because that is what the client prefers, so that she can have this family history of all of the times it's been reupholstered. And on top of that, she's going to get the video replays, all of these recordings of me taking it apart and putting it back together again for her. So that's something that we offer as a service to our clients, is they get to follow the history of the duration of their project so that they can follow along as we go, which is cool. So I think that's going to be it for today. I'm going to go over to Instagram first because I can see that one. I'm just going back to the top, you guys, to see if there's any questions. Nope, I don't see any on Instagram. You got any on TikTok?
Zero Waste A2 says they love it.
Oh, that's cool. Well, you guys, thank you so much for joining in today. We're going to come back next week and we're going to be reapplying all of the new materials. I think that this is going to be well, actually next week we're probably going to do the frame finishing because we need to get that done before we start putting the materials on. So we're going to take a look at the frame finishing. We're going to, we need to measure for materials before we get off of here. Can you get me a ruler? Before we get off of here, we'll measure for materials so we know how much like foam, batting, all that stuff we're going to need. We're not going to use foam, but we are going to use batting, and we're going to go over exactly how much we needed at the next one, like how much we got for it. But I want to go over the measuring process for you guys right now so you have an idea of how to measure for your materials. The average bolt of fabric is only about 54 inches wide. And when you're new at this, chances are you're going to be making some fabric mistakes and choices. And you also need to make sure you have enough to like work with your hands. So this is why I tell my students, don't use the existing patterns as your pattern guide because that material was cut to shape after it was upholstered. So all the extra materials that they needed to put it on were removed. So I tell my new students when they're doing this, don't assume you can get one piece of fabric or two pieces of fabric out of that 54-inch width. And because of that, we only want you to measure the lengths of the panels that you need. So on this particular chair, it has 3 panels of fabric. It has one on the back, one on the seat, and one on the seat back. So we have to measure the lengths of these, add them up, divide by 36, and that's going to tell us how many yards of fabric that we need. I always round up to the next yard. If you're using a pattern, you have to consider the length of the pattern repeat as well. Everywhere on the chair where the pattern breaks, in this case it was just here at the seat, you have to account for the length of that pattern repeat. So if you have a 48-inch pattern repeat, you're going to have to add 48 inches to accommodate the pattern matching in this area. On a box cushion that has a seam here and a seam here, you have to accommodate 48 inches for that seam and for the next seam to make sure that you can move up and down that pattern repeat to get a good pattern match. So I maybe don't do a pattern on your first chair, but it's not impossible. You just have to prepare for it. This is just getting a solid velvet, which is really pretty. So we're super excited about that. I'm going to measure the seat length first. And this has got to go all the way back to the bottom and the top of the frame, which I can actually touch from here. So that's good. And then it's going to attach down here. That's giving me 28 inches. I also have to add enough material to pull at both sides with my hands. And for me, it's 2 inches on each side. So I'm going to add 4 additional inches to be able to pull that. You can also sew on a pull in the back to like accommodate that 4 inches so you don't have to add that. That's going to give you material that goes through the frame that you can staple to conserve fabric. So if you're trying to conserve fabric, you can sew that additional pull on. But when you're measuring for fabric, it's good to try to just include it in that measurement, and then you'll have a little bit extra afterwards if you need it. So 28 inches plus 4 is 32 inches. That's how much we'll need for that. That's a yard if you round it up to the nearest yard. So already we know we need at least 1 yard for the seat. We measure from inside the frame till we touch the top of the frame up to here. We got another 28 inches. It's going to be another 32 inches tall. But then you also have to consider the depth of these buttons because the fabric goes down into the button and then out of the button. And this is about 1 inch thick. So it was 28 inches plus 4 for pulling is 32, plus an additional 2 inches, 1 inch down, 1 inch out for every button going down. So we got 2, 4, 6, I might even call it 8 just to be sure. So another 8 inches, we're at 40 inches for that. So 1 yard for this, a little more than 1 yard for this one. So we're at 40 there. I'm going to measure the back is 28 inches, so that's going to be another 32. That's another yard. So it's 3+ yards is what we need for this. I'm going to go ahead and round that up to 4 yards. So that way we have enough for this project. I'm going to need the same amount of poly batting for that because I am going to use poly batting to help contain some stuff here. But I'm going to need to measure the tops of this for cotton batting. That's going to be how long of a piece that I need. And I'm probably going to do 2 layers of this. So the top front to back, actually we'll probably pull that down to the side, is 24 inches for the seat. And I'm going to double that up. So that's 48 inches of cotton batting for the seat. And then up to the top is 26 inches. And I probably won't need to double that up because we have the padding here. So we're just going to put 1 layer. So that's 26 inches. So 48, 58, 68, 74 inches. So that's like 2 yards of cotton batting. Cotton batting is sold by the pound. I do have that available on my website, so you can go check it out over there. But a big roll is like this big, 25 inches around, or 25 pounds. I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up on my website. We're going to put it, if you go watch the long form content, we're going to put it on the screen so you know exactly how much you need. But we do carry those materials on the website. So that's how much cotton batting. I'll need the same amount of poly batting as I have fabric because it's going to go on the same way. And then the measurement for the cotton batting. And then there's the barrier fabric that has to go on. Now the seat isn't going to need it, but the back is going to need it. And we're going to find, for the front, we're going to use a muslin material just like this one here. So you need to accommodate for that. That was our 48-inch one, I believe. So you're also going to want to make sure you include that. And then the back is also going to have a barrier fabric, probably a burlap. So you need to accommodate for that 42 inches of burlap that's in the back too. So next week when we come back, we're going to have all of those materials on hand and we're going to start to assemble them and we're going to see how far we get. Next week, I believe we should have 2 hours as opposed to the 1 hour that we're doing today. So if you want to continue to learn how to reupholster a spoonback chair while preserving as much of the material as possible, that's what we're doing here every Tutorial Tuesday. Thanks for tuning in today, you guys. I'll see y'all later. Oh, there's a button for that.